You have to be an investigator. You have to be curious. Yes, curious. You want to know who is in front of you. You want to know everything about this person, about this company, about this entity. You are a KYC person.
KYC. The K stands for Know Your Customer Client Counterpart, but we should know our podcasters today. So we have two KYC experts, and we'll get into exactly what a KYC expert is in a moment, but we have two of them here. Virginie Marc, who is the head of Know Your Counterparty unit at the European Investment Bank, and Konstantina Konstantinidi, who is the KYC team lead here at the bank. When you're not actually KYCing, what do you do to pass the time?
I used to be, I would say, a ballerina, but before joining the university, I felt I had to make a choice between becoming a professional dancer and studying law, business law, tax law.
So you couldn't be a ballerina and a lawyer? Because, I have a 6-year-old daughter who says she's going to be a ballerina when she grows up, but she's also going to be an engineer, a lawyer, and a spaceman.
No, I decided to go for the KYC, to the law part and then to the KYC expertise.
Aha. Are you also a lawyer, Konstantina?
No, I'm not. I've finished my MBA and then I landed in Luxembourg, and where I started working on banking, and within 2 years of working in banking, I specialized in KYC. So for the last 13 years, I've been doing KYC.
Aha. So you don't do any dancing or anything. What do you do when you're...
We
want our listeners to KY podcaster here. We want them to know you. So.
All right, since I have to. I am into cooking. My specialization is tarts, savory and sweet ones, with any ingredients that I have at home. I just like to create. And jigsaw puzzles of 1,000 pieces specifically.
Jigsaw puzzles, 1,000 pieces.
How long does it take you to put one together?
As I'm only doing it in the evenings, and certain evenings when I feel like doing it, it would take me 2 to 3 months.
Why do you do that?
It relaxes me.
Really? They drive me nuts. It's the exact opposite effect on me. But anyway, I'm glad you enjoy. So let's get to KYC. If someone is going to if a bank is going to try to know its customer, what do they need to know and why do they need to know it?
I will first say that KYC has been happening to you in your daily life.
Really?
Yes,
How?
Really. You have a bank account, maybe several bank accounts.
Well, yeah, it's true.
So
yes.
Remember, when you went to your bank to open a new account, I'm sure that you were asked to provide something, your passport, your ID card, maybe your job, to describe your job, to explain what you want to do with this account. Then you went through the KYC process of your bank.
But why did they need all that information?
They need to know who you are, what kind of activity you will have, and for what purposes you will use this account.
They also need to know where the money is coming from, right?
Exactly.
So that's why they need to know where I work.
Exactly.
Why do they need to know where the money is coming from?
Because this way they will, if they believe that there is something different to what they were expecting you to do, then they would contact you and ask you how come you are in this activity, or how come you had money coming from one of the tax paradise, for example, while you said that money will be the main source of your income would be the job that you have in Luxembourg.
Well, as long as I have the money and I give it to them, why does the bank care? What's the problem?
They don't want their bank to be involved through you in illegal activities, including money laundering, financing terrorism, and lately tax evasion or tax avoidance.
I'm pretty sure I haven't done any of those, but if I had, what exactly is money laundering, really?
It's in very simple words, it's taking the proceeds of a crime, let's say by selling drugs, not you necessarily, but you have the drug money, the money that came from crimes, including drugs, and you're trying to put them in the financial system using various ways.
So that they won't be traceable to the crime anymore.
Of course. And then once they're in the system, you can easily use them to either continue the activity or just have fun.
Yeah, and the financing of terrorism is linked in the sense that a lot of terrorist organizations use crime or illegal sources of money to finance the terrorism.
Yes.
So KYC helps to guard against these things happening. But what is it? What does it consist of? It's a process. Is it like a form that the bank employee fills out about each client, and what does it look like? How does it work?
That's a specific process, indeed. The role of a KYC team is the first step of the AML CFT, we'll say anti-money laundering, financing terrorism framework. The role of a KYC team within a bank is to prevent the bank, the governing bodies, the staff, and the client from being used for or connecting with any money laundering or other financial activity, but also from being exposed to a reputational damage. When you have a new client, you are a bank, you have a new client, then you need to know who is your client. Not only to prevent those specific things I already mentioned, but to better understand your client, his financial dealings, what he wants to do with your money. That's very important.
What do you actually ask them to provide?
If this counterparty is a bank, we would ask him questions that relate to a bank in EU or outside the EU, and the risks involved doing business with a bank in EU or outside EU, or a company not regulated within EU or outside EU. So everything, the starting point is the nature of the counterparty, and then also the role that they will play in a project.
Is it standard? Is there a law that tells you need to ask these 10 questions? If it's a bank, you need to ask these 15 questions. If it's an insurance company, is there a law that tells you exactly what to do?
No, not. I'm afraid not. But the laws and the regulations, EU regulations, laws and directives, so they guide you where you should be heading to. They might set some limits. For example, they might say that if you need to identify the beneficial owner of your counterparty, go up to 25% at least.
So 25%, every owner who owns at least 25% needs to be identified.
Indeed, but This is what the fourth AML directive says as a minimum. So the minimum we should do as a bank is identify up to 25%. What EIB decided to do is, as the 25% is quite high, and you might not have a good picture of the beneficial ownership of your counterparty, we have gone up down to 10% of beneficial ownership.
Okay. And what are you looking for in that? If someone is a beneficial owner, what are you looking for there? I mean, obviously you're looking to see if it's someone who's a known terrorist, but what else if it's not quite so evident?
The purpose of asking those questions is because we would need to know who are the entities in between our counterparty and the ultimate beneficial owner, which is we expect to be a natural person, and then take those names, input them in the PIRAT database, the counterparty database that the KYC unit is managing.
The database, is this our own database? Does every bank have their own database where they monitor these names and things, or is this something that is common to all the financial institutions, or how does it work?
The bank has to implement the KYC process as per the regulation and the European regulation, and the banks have choose how they can implement this KYC process. You can either choose to put the KYC process on your client database, or you can externalize the KYC process. To summarize the KYC process, we can also say counterparty due diligence. We have mainly 4 steps, very simple. First step is to identify and verify the identity of your counterpart, your client. Mm-hmm. Then, second step, identify and verify the identity of the beneficial owner of your client. Who is behind? Who ultimately owns or controls the client?
So the beneficial owner, they were looking for a natural person. Behind the legal person. Okay.
Exactly. Third step, establishing the purpose of the business relationship. Mm-hmm. To understand what the client will do with your money. Mm-hmm. And how you will reimburse the bank. And the fourth step is to monitor this let's say KYC file. We need to know at any time during the business relationship we have with our clients, we need to know who they are. Mm-hmm. If they have a change of shareholder, then we need to know. Mm-hmm. We need to update and then to restart the process, ask for new documents, because KYC process is collecting documents, collecting data, and check whether we know exactly who is our client.
You mentioned identify and verify, so we don't just ask, we also check.
We also check, we ask for documentation, we collect legal document from the business register. Mm-hmm. The client-facing officer ask their client to provide some specific document, list of key person, of course ownership structure to identify the beneficial owner, but also in some cases, depending on the nature of the counterpart, if the counterpart is listed or not, we are not asking the same type of documents. It's really, it depends on the nature of the counterpart.
I guess for the listed companies, we ask slightly less because it's already made public. Yes, but do we sometimes get more information about some of these companies than the local tax authority might have about them? Because they need money from us, so they to get this money, they're maybe willing to give us more information about their structure than they would be making public in their local country.
I would say that more or less it's the same information, because especially as you said, the tax office is within Europe, in EU specifically. So that means that they are also following the EU directives, laws, etc. So more or less it's the same list of documents.
It sounds like a lot of work, and it sounds like you have to actually know what you're doing. How do you become a KYC expert?
You need definitely you need to start low, so you would start like an assistant or a junior person, and starting by reviewing the documents. So filing, this is how I started, by filing KYC documents, or by just doing chasing, following up on chasings that other experts have done. Gives you the exposure you need to look at the documents, understand what the documents are about, see how different the documents, the Articles of Association, look like in the UK and in Greece and in France, and what are the requirements, why are they different in each country, and where can you find the information. So soon after a few years, you know that on page 5 of the prospectus of a Luxembourgish fund, you know that you would find the auditors, for example. So you get this expertise and a way of skimming through the documents without having to read the whole document.
It seems also like you have to be a bit of an investigator. Are there KYC people, or are you partially trained at least in some of the same things that maybe law enforcement people might be trained in?
Actually, when you have a new client, you have to understand its ownership structure, to investigate why there is such entities between the client and its beneficial owner. So it's not so far from investigating. Yes.
after the client-facing officer gathers all of that data with your help, what do we do with that data? How do we use it from then on?
So once the KYC team has all the documents, there is a specific assessment on the document, and then when we are comfortable and we can say that we know our customer, then this KYC analysis is sent to the compliance department, and they will use this KYC analysis to assess the whole project in which the client is involved.
And if the organizational structure is very complicated between the client and the actual beneficial owner, they would be the ones who would ask follow-up questions for why that is.
The KYC team will be the ones who raise the red flag, and then the compliance department will investigate more on this specific structure.
But is there a specific limit, like how many layers of companies you would have to have a red flag, or when do you say it's a red flag? Is it an intuitive thing that you look at it and you're saying that, oh, from my experience from working with all these companies in Greece or in UK, for example, I don't see this as normal market practice. This stands out, or how do you do this?
I think Alar should come and work for us. Because this is exactly what is happening. There is no rule. There's no rule that says after 3 layers we should get suspicious or we should report it. It has to do with your experience. That's why the more experience, the better. And if you can explain to yourself why it's okay not to mark it as a red flag, the fact that there are already 3 layers and you have not realized what was the business purpose for doing that.
Well, you can't have Alar in your department. He's far too good at doing podcasts up this end of the building. But Konstantina and Virginie, thank you so much for helping us to KYC.
Yes.
Is that right? No.
Just KYC.
KYC.
Yes.
Anyway, to our listeners, don't forget to subscribe to A Dictionary of Finance from the European Investment Bank. Be in touch with us on Twitter. You can get in touch with Alar at
Alar Tankler, ALLARTANKLER.
And you can tell him what a great job he does here, and don't leave to go and do KYC, even though he'd be fantastic at it, of course. And you can also write to me at EIBMATT, EIBMAT. It's obvious I wouldn't be that good at KYC. I just give people the money.